Bienvenidos. Welcome to another episode of Spain on a Fork. As always, it is so great to have you here. I hope you're staying safe and healthy and feeling fabulous at the same time. Anyways, today we have such a delicious recipe. We are talking a Spanish garbanzo bean stew from the south of Spain. This dish hails from the town of Baza in the province of Granada, where it's known as un potaje de garbanzos de Baza. It's got so many beautiful flavors to it. It's very healthy for you, easy to make, and made with the most humble ingredients, folks. We have done a ton of different stews here on the show, but the one we're making today promises to be one of the best ones yet. Let's begin by getting our ingredients ready. I'm going to grab one large potato and cut it into small pieces that are about ½ an inch thick, which is 1.25 centimeters. Now this potato has already been peeled, washed, and patted dry. For the next ingredient, I'm going to grab half of a green bell pepper. As you know, I always like to cut around the bell pepper, that way there's no seeds involved. We'll cut it into thin strips and roughly chop it. And we'll do the exact same thing with half of a red bell pepper. We'll grab one fresh tomato and finely grate it. And for the final ingredient to prepare, I'm going to grab one jar of cooked garbanzo beans. This is the same thing as the canned ones, adding them into a sieve and rinsing them under some cold running water. Now the size of this jar is 570 grams, which is about 20 ounces. And reserved, we have the usual suspects here, half of an onion that I roughly diced, and 3 cloves of garlic that I roughly chopped. All right, let's start cooking our stew. I'm gonna grab a stock pot, heat it with a medium-high heat, and add in a generous 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, which is about 35 milliliters. After heating the olive oil for 1 minute on a medium-high heat, you don't want it to get too hot. I'm gonna add in the roughly diced onion, the chopped up bell peppers, and the roughly chopped garlic. And start mixing these vegetables around with that olive oil. We are on a medium-high heat here, so make sure you mix this continuously. That way the veggies don't burn and they all evenly saute. After about 5 minutes, you can see all the vegetables are lightly sauteed. You don't want to brown them too much. I'm going to add in the finely grated tomato and continue to mix these ingredients around. We're going to go between 1 to 2 minutes here, or until that finely grated tomato has really thickened up. Once the finely grated tomato has really thickened up and incorporated into the vegetables, I'm going to add in the pieces of potato, our drained garbanzo beans, and season everything with 1 teaspoon of sweet smoked Spanish paprika, which is 2.30 grams, a pinch of sea salt, and a generous portion of freshly cracked black pepper. And we're going to give this a gentle mix. That way all these ingredients are evenly mixed together. And once again, make sure to be gentle here, otherwise you can easily break those garbanzo beans apart. Once everything's well mixed, I'm going to add in some vegetable broth into the stock pot. You want to go to just above the ingredients. In my case, it's exactly 3 cups, which is 710 milliliters. Now the broth I'm using is homemade. You'll find the recipe on how to make it in the iCard above. And we'll also add in 1 bay leaf. And we'll give it a quick mix and bring it to a boil. Once the broth comes to a boil, I'm going to place a lid on the stock pot and lower the fire from a medium-high heat to a low-medium heat. and we're gonna simmer this on a low-medium heat for about 25 minutes. This is enough time for all these flavors to come together and for those potatoes to be perfectly cooked through. In the meanwhile, let's make our thickener, which we're gonna add later on into our stew. It's gonna give it an incredible texture, and it's what really takes this stew to the next level of greatness. I'm gonna roughly chop 2 cloves of garlic, cut 2 slices of baguette into small squares, and crack in 1 cage-free organic egg into a bowl. Then we're gonna grab a small fry pan, heat it with a medium heat, and add in 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, which is 30 milliliters. After heating the olive oil for 2 minutes on a medium heat, I'm gonna add in the chopped garlic, and start mixing the garlic around with the olive oil. We're only gonna go between 1 to 2 minutes here, or until the garlic is lightly sauteed. Once the garlic is slightly sauteed, I'm gonna transfer it into a mortar. Now, using the same pan with the same heat, I'm gonna add in the egg into the pan, and we're gonna cook the egg for about 1.5 minutes per side. You want the egg to be fully cooked through, including that egg yolk. You don't want to have a runny yolk here. And once again, when the egg is well cooked, I'm gonna transfer it into the mortar with the garlic. And for the last step, using the same pan with the same heat, I'm gonna add in the pieces of baguette bread, and start mixing the bread around with that olive oil. We're gonna go for about 3 to 4 minutes here, or until each piece of baguette bread is lightly fried. And we'll add in our pieces of fried baguette bread into the mortar with the fried egg and the garlic. I'm also gonna add in 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley, which is about 7.60 grams, and lightly season with sea salt. And then using a pestle, I'm gonna pound down on these ingredients until we form a paste, and then set it aside. Okay, let's move back to our stew. It's been simmering for about 25 minutes, and those potatoes should be perfectly cooked through. I'm gonna remove the lid from the stock pot. And you know, you can always tell when your potatoes are fully cooked through. You just pierce them with a toothpick, and if it easily goes in, they are ready to go. For the final step, I'm gonna grab our thickener that we made and add it into the stew. We'll give it a gentle mix, that way that thickener is evenly distributed. And we're gonna simmer this for another 1 to 2 minutes without the lid. This is enough time for the stew to really thicken up and for the flavors of that thickener to really incorporate into the stew. Then we'll remove the stock pot from the heat. Transfer some of the garbanzo bean stew into a shallow bowl. And we'll sprinkle it with some freshly chopped parsley. Our Potaje de Garbanzos de Baza is done, a beautiful Spanish garbanzo bean stew from southern Spain. So many great aromas. That thickener really gave it an incredible texture. Let's give it a try and see how it tastes. Folks, this is what Spanish cuisine is all about. Here we go. It is absolutely delicious. All the different textures with the garbanzo beans, the vegetables, and the potatoes. But what makes this stew really stand out is that thickener we added in at the end with the fried egg, the garlic, and the bread. It really takes it to the next level of goodness. You saw this, a classic Spanish garbanzo bean stew from the small town of Baza in the province of Granada. Make it at home. You are not gonna believe how good this is. Really quick before I go, a shout out to a couple of my patrons, Kim Hems, Darren Allen, and Linda Bufano. Again, guys, thank you so much for being patrons of Spain on a Fork. It's thanks to you and the rest of my patrons why Spain on a Fork continues to move forward. If you're not a patron, consider becoming one. It really helps with ingredients and equipment to continue making videos like this. You'll find my Patreon link in the description box below and iCard above. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button. Leave me a comment below, and if you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button. Till the next time, hasta luego.